Because what we
Okay,
found is
we're
that it
live.
kind of, okay. All right. So, hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Sean Metcalf, City Manager for the City of Rollins, and I have a special guest with me today for our behind the scenes, which is Mayor Terry Whitegum. And as I think that this is going to be a really awesome opportunity to hear from an elected official and be able to hear, his thoughts on how we're doing as a city, and I think this will be really, really great. So behind the scenes, what we try and do is I come up with questions beforehand, and I like to think from the perspective of our residents and ask some questions that I think that the residents would be interested in knowing, and specifically for Terry today. So, and the whole goal of doing this is just to have open communication and transparency in local government. That's why we're doing this today. So, without further ado, I'll start with the first question. So, Terry, can you tell the residents how the strategic plan came to be and why it's important for the community? And some people probably that are listening probably don't even know what it is, all that.
Sure. Well, in any organization, you have to have a plan to know where you're coming from, where you're going to, what do you want to accomplish. The strategic plan came from several days of work of the city council, and the staff got together and took the survey that was filled out by people in our community, and took that into heavy consideration on, what people think is going on, what they want to have going on, and then it's our job kind of to figure out how to get there. We identified several things. There's 5 categories that were looked at, and that is employees, how to get them, how to keep them, how to make them glad to work for the city and rewarded, and therefore do a better job. We looked at beautification. There are things in our town that need improvement. What are they? What can we do about them? And a plan to address those sort of things, and not just a few things. We looked at the entire structure, from maybe even approaching the legislature to change laws to allow us to do more in the way of abandoned buildings and such like that. We looked at our infrastructure and what it needed, and what improvements needed to be made, and of course took into consideration what the people in town's thoughts were, and addressed those, as well as the physical part, what's going on. Of course, we found out things a little bit later on that changed the order in which we're doing some of these things, but nonetheless, one of the biggest things that I wanted to address, and I'm glad that the group agreed with that and has done things to improve the situation, is gain more community trust and engagement. To let the people know what we're doing, so they trust what we're doing, and if they have questions, so that they feel free to contact one of us and ask specific questions on, what are you doing, why are you doing that, and such like that. I want the people to trust what we're doing and know what we're doing, and so that's being addressed. The community and economic development is also a big part of what we're doing. It's a tough one. Economic development is hard to quantify if it's working or not, but I don't think we've been aggressive enough in that area, and everybody felt the same way. And so luckily, those are the 5 main things in the strategic plan. The one thing I want to say is I've been involved with a lot of different strategic plans over the years on various things. A lot of times, a lot of good ideas come out of it. You sit around and you talk about where, all the things we just talked about, where we've been, where we're going, and how to get there. And then that plan, everybody cheers and puts it up on the shelf, and it collects dust. That is not what's happening in Rollins. At every city council meeting, we give an update on how it's going. Some of the things in the strategic plan have gone better than we thought. Some things not as well. We knew that everything wouldn't be done at the same time, but at least there's a measurement of that. We know where we're at. We know what else we need to accomplish, um, and that's the strategic plan and why I believe in it.
Yeah, I have the same thoughts when we're talking about, there's, I've been a part of those different strategic plans in the past, and when you get master plans for the city, sometimes they just sit and collect dust, but that's not what we want. Is you literally, for those that are looking, you can see it all on one page. And I think that that's important. When it's simple, it becomes easier and more attainable, I think, with the simplicity of it. So I think what you said was a good segue into the next section, is on those different parts of the strategic plan. How do you think we're doing in each area? Maybe more on a broad term, but maybe start with employees. How do you think we're doing with that section?
Well, I think our employees are, they seem to be happy. I see them on the street and they voice their opinion about how they feel they're doing. They seem to be doing a really good job. I get a lot of compliments on our streets have never been better. They've taken good care of, really done a lot of good work. Rollins has always had pretty darn good employees, and we're trying to keep that way and improve it actually. And um, I just see them doing good things. I also know that there'll be some turnover, but I think that some of the actions we've taken will prevent that expensive turnover by providing them better training, better opportunities, and therefore they'll do a better job. And I appreciate every single thing they do. They're a bunch of hardworking folks.
How do you think we're doing on beautification so far?
Well, not as good as some of the other things, to be honest with you. Now, we have made a lot of plans that haven't come true. So we've built a buffet of things to do, I guess is the way to put it. We're not going to force anything, but when it's time, we'll do it. Or when it's at the best time, we're not going to do summer beautification in the winter and such like that. But there's a lot of things in the works that will make our town more attractive, and but we're not there yet.
Yeah, we have a long ways to go with beautification. What about infrastructure?
Well, infrastructure, of course, everybody wants to talk about water, and so do I. Most of our infrastructure is in pretty good shape. There is some problems with our water supply, and without the water supply, everything else we talk about is absolutely not necessary. You have to have the water. It came to us as kind of a surprise that the condition of our water system is what it is. But I want to reassure everybody that will be well addressed, and we're going as fast as we can. There's no magic wand. It all has to be done in steps and phases. But I feel very comfortable saying we won't have water rationing next summer. I think we've identified enough things that will at least relieve that problem, and then move forward from there. But it relies on a lot of grants. We're going to have to spend a lot of money on the water. We had a sewer plant problem. That problem has not only been addressed, but actions have been taken to where that same scenario should never happen again. Our streets, and pretty much all the rest of the infrastructure is in pretty good shape. I think our streets are in better shape than ever in my ward, in Ward Number 1, which is Southside. The streets just look magnificent, and with infrastructure, the minute you get done with the street, it starts wearing out. And so some of the actions that the city's doing under the direction, of course, of Sean and the staff is trying to make it to where when these streets are wore out, we have the money to fix them again. And instead of just the crisis management mode with our infrastructure, which would describe our water system, but all of those things are being addressed as seriously and as fast as possible. There's nothing more serious than fixing our water system.
Absolutely. What's your perception on community trust and engagement? How are we doing in that area?
You know, I hope that this survey that we're preparing will confirm what I think is, I think people have a little more trust. I know as far as engagement, a lot of people have reached out to the council, and I hope everybody continues to do that, whether you do it on the street, you know, call our personal phones, uh, uh, approach us personally or at the city council. I feel there's more community trust. I have people express that, um, but I would like everybody to fill out the survey that's being presented now and be truthful about it, so we know what to fix.
Absolutely. Could you tell maybe the residents would be curious to hear more some longer about your vision for the city? Just a little bit more on that.
Well, one thing we need to do is stabilize all of our infrastructure, which we're doing. Make it a place where people want to come. We've done some work, and we plan on doing more about regulations, making it easier to build something here, making it more understandable. What are the rules? Making it easier to start a business here. I don't want to use the word deregulation because that has all kinds of different things, but I want to make simpler regulations. We've met with the Board of Adjustments about some of these things, and I think the direction is good. I think we're going to end up in a place where people will want to live because we have a better quality of life here. That's my goal, is to make Rawlins just a better place to live. It's easy to move to a place that is thriving and moving forward and improvements being made, and that describes Rawlins.
Before we go into the just question and answers, because I'm sure there probably will be some people that want to ask you questions.
I hope so.
And yeah, if you are chiming in right now and you're listening, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Terry or myself, go ahead and put it in, type that in Facebook there, and we'll be happy to answer them. But is there any other things that you'd just like to tell the community in general? You know, just, I'm kind of keeping that super broad, but anything that you want the community to know?
Yeah, I would. A lot of people ask me, about the structure of the city. How does it work? And we are a city manager form of government, and so therefore the city council, when you run for city council, there's 7 people, and 1 year, 3 people are up, or one election cycle, and 1 election cycle, 4 people are up for election. And then out of those 7 people, they choose who will be the mayor, and I was fortunate enough to get that honor. And I run the meetings and such like that, but in all other respects, I'm exactly like any other city council person. I can make a motion, I can second it, I can do everything a regular city council person can do, but I do that. The other part that a lot of people don't understand is that the city council has 3 employees. There is the city manager, the city attorney, and the judge. And then everybody else works for the city manager. We set the policies, and then it is the job of the staff to implement those policies. It's a good form of government. The mayor form of government, some people talk about they would like to have the mayor form of government come back out, but I can tell you the average person could not run a city. It takes entirely too much specialized training. I'm glad we have the city manager form of government. I think it works well. It comes down to who they are, and of course, I think Sean has done an excellent job of turning the attitude. You talked about the attitude towards the city government around. A lot of people are more positive because they see that things are done, fairly straight across the board, that sort of thing. And I just want people to know how that structure works. I have a lot of people that approach me personally about, hey, my dog down the streets chasing people, or the guy's got loudmouth or such like that. I I have really worked very hard at teaching them how to use the city government. If you know what problem you have and who to call, because some people don't know. And I've worked. One of my goals is to have people understand, who to call, and then have employees that are trained well enough to where they can be relied upon to cure that problem. And we're really headed there in fast motion.
Do you have any questions right now?
We do.
Okay, let's jump into this.
This question is asking me during my talk about business regulations, is this to allow wind farms to come more easily? The city has very little to say about whether wind farms come or not. I was fortunate enough to win the Clean Power Association Award for the whole United States. It was quite an honor. A lot of people misconstrue what my job was and how I got to the point of being a wind energy expert, I guess is the word to use. But how it went was when wind farms first come along, they didn't pay any sales tax. They paid property tax, or a piece of equipment they depreciate. They didn't pay sales tax. So the only taxes they were paying, for instance, was the property tax, but they depreciate. So it really they didn't pay their fair share. And grandma that lived at the end of the block on a fixed income had to help pay for the roads they were using and such like that. The reason I got so involved with wind farms is when I was a county commissioner and I didn't think they were doing the right things. There were no regulations. And I worked as a County Commissioners Association Wind Task Force Committee chairman to bring around some of these rules. And at first it was a very adversarial thing between myself and the wind farms. Some of the wind companies were very mad at me because I thought we needed more regulations and I think they needed to pay more taxes and such like that. And so some of the wind farm companies were just really angry with me, really. The good companies that understood and wanted to become community members did understand. They realized they weren't paying as many taxes as they should. And so the committee I was on, we took to the legislature 4 different taxation schemes. They picked the one that is still in force, even though it's been challenged 18 times. It's still just like it was. And then we came up with other rules, the minimum setbacks, and that is how far from a county road, how far from a subdivision, and so forth. I don't want people to think that because I worked with wind farms and worked on those rules, regulations, and taxation schemes that I am pro-wind. I'm pro-job. Quality of life begins with a paycheck, and I could see that there were 52 or 3 of these being scoped out with the BLM. Here they came. They were coming, and you can try to stand in their way and get run over, or you can say, hey, where should they be? Where shouldn't they be? We worked with the BLM to make places that they just never can be. When you drive south of Interstate 80 towards Saratoga and you look off to the east, you won't see wind farms over there. That's been designated as a visual impairment that the BLM won't tolerate. The BLM worked with us very well, understanding that there's just places that need preserved and that sort of thing. The way I looked at it was this, and this probably is how I should have answered this question to start with, but here they come. And they're going to be here whether we like it or not. I mean, that just seemed to be what was going to happen. And so I tried to work with the state to make regulations that would allow them to be successful while protecting us. Because I for sure wanted them, if they were going to be here, I wanted them to be successful, just like any business. If they come here, you want them to be successful. because if they come here and they're not successful, then it's an incredible burden. But I hope I've answered that question. I would make regulations easier on any business for that matter, as long as the protection to the general people of the town is still there.
So if we have another question, and again, anyone that's listening right now, if you want to jot down some questions for the mayor or myself, please do so in the chat box.
This is a question. It said, do you seek out residents who have to assess things with a critical eye? How serious are their opinions and questions taken? You know, it's kind of an interesting question that I don't necessarily go out and ask people to criticize us or to critique us, but I don't have to because they do. And it's a very helpful thing because there's no way I can drive up and down every single street and look at every tree and every sidewalk and every drain and all the other things. So the participation by the citizens is very important, and it is always taken very seriously when we get those kind of things. There are times, however, that we don't necessarily engage with people. I'll give you one example. During the meeting, we have a 5-minute period where citizens can come in and participate. And some of the people that have come in have brought up things that there's no way we would have known had they not showed up to the city council meeting. So eternally grateful, or written us letters about things that we didn't know about. And so I'm really glad to hear that. Now in the meetings, there's a lot of times when we listen to the people, but we don't necessarily react to them. And I'll tell you exactly why. And that is, a lot of people sit and think and think and think, and they think about all sorts of all the ripple effects and all the different things that are affected by whatever they're talking about. And they thought about it for a while. And then all of a sudden, we've got 4 seconds to think about it. And so a lot of times when we're sitting as a council, a lot of times we won't respond to those folks. And I try to explain it at every meeting that, well, you're intimate with the situation and you know all the details, we don't. So just because we don't respond, don't mean we're up there sleeping. We are paying attention, and we do go out and do our research afterwards. And many times when people come up, I have had to, or other councilors have had to call and get clarification or respond to whatever. But you know, just to take something that somebody's thought about for a long time and quickly give me an answer, it might not be the right one. So without the proper research and whatnot, the response would be kind of meaningless, really. So to answer your question, yeah, we take them very seriously. All right. Let's see. Please clarify that the mayor is elected by the council specifically, not by the whole vote of all the residents. I think I've already done that. In some towns, you have to run as the mayor. Like there are several towns in our county where you run as a councilor or you run as the mayor. If you run for election as the mayor, then you will run the meetings, and then you will break any tie votes. The city manager form of government is different, and so the mayor is selected by the councilors, and then that myself as mayor, I have the same exact role as the city council. Let's see. Does this imply that the mayor isn't really elected? And how much does a councilor have over running of the city? Of course the mayor is elected. You don't just pick somebody off the street, but you're elected as a city councilman. And then you're elected again by the city council as the mayor, or appointed or selected. It's kind of an election, if you will. But you don't just become a mayor without winning a city council election. So I guess to answer the question, yeah, the mayor does have to withstand an election. And how much does the city council have over running of the city? How much influence? Quite a little bit. But you have to go back to the fact that we have three employees: the city manager, the city attorney, and the judge. So if I go out and I see somebody in a city truck, which I never have, by the way, went out and seen somebody in a city truck pulling a wheelie or something just ridiculous, I don't approach that person. I approach my employee, who is Sean, and then he takes care of that because all of the department heads and the other employees work for him. And so there's a lot of times, some of these people, I'm not their boss. I'm not their boss's boss. However, I have always gotten a very positive response when I have noticed something that didn't hit my eye right, and it was either explained or taken care of. So, getting back, the mayor is elected, and the council has not the day-to-day stuff, but as far as changing ordinances, that sort of thing, that's what the city council does.
Approval of the budget.
Approval of the budget. Yeah, it is huge. Yeah. It's not like two different teams going two different directions. We work together. The council will come up with some ideas where sometimes the city manager will be like, hey, you know what, we can do it if we do it this way or that way or whatever. But that's the difference in having the experience and the techniques and know-how. And we're not there to check the tire pressures on trucks and stuff like that. That's not our job.
It's a combination, really.
Teamwork.
Yep.
For you.
Are there plans to get drinking fountains at Bolton Park? We have talked about getting some drinking fountains actually in the past, but that's something I think that needs to be revisited. That has, I guess that's my answer right now, is it's been a discussion point, but I don't think we've officially set money aside for that, if I remember correctly.
I would add to that just a little bit, Sean, that there has been some improvements to Bolton Park already.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plans to take better care of our parks that we already have. And we have a person hired for that department that's just doing a fantastic job. He understands parks. He's dealt with all the different things that go with running a park. I didn't realize a park takes so much thought in not only maintenance but safety. And I think everybody will see big improvements, whether it's drinking fountain or not. But I think you'll see next year our parks will be amazing.
Oh, I stand corrected. So Jason Sehan, our Parks and Rec director, did just confirm that getting a few water fountains are in the budget. I couldn't remember that, so that's good. And maybe it's he's in water fountains, so I think there's a few of them there.
Yeah, we have some really nice parks. They've been taken care of over the years pretty well. The parks have, and but some of the equipment's old and some of it needs updated, and it's definitely on our radar. It goes along with somewhere between infrastructure and economic development, because a lot of people, like Bolton Park is used by a lot of out of town people. I drive right by there a lot of times on my way home, and it's right off the interstate, and a lot of people stop there to rest and recreate and let their kids go get wore out a little bit so they can strap them back in the car, And it's just a convenient park, and it's well used. Actually, all of our parks are pretty well used.
Do we have any more questions?
You know, there's everybody out there probably is like, boy, would I love to tell them something. Boy, I'd love to tell the city council something, Terry something, one of the councilors, Sean. There's a perfect opportunity, and that's called the survey. Please fill that out. If you have things you want to tell us, we have no crystal balls. None of us are omniscient. We have to be told. And we're going to be working on the strategic plan, looking at where we're at, where we're going. Do there need to be some changes or some tweaks to it? Because it is a dynamic document, meaning it changes daily. We don't know what's 2 years from now. I couldn't tell you what our problems might be, but I know that we will adjust this strategic plan to match those problems. And so this is your chance to tell the city council and the city government what's on your mind. Good, bad. I mean, I hope a lot of people write good things. That's our goal. But how you have people write a lot of good things is by having them write a lot of bad things. You go fix them and then they write good things. So I understand that we're not perfect. We don't have it perfect. It may never be perfect, but we can be better. And that's our goal. And one way we can be better is by, in your eyes, is by doing things you would like to have us do. And that's why you should fill out the survey so that we know what those are. The last time, it was amazing to me. Some of the answers that came in were things that, I personally should have probably even thought of or known, but that wasn't the case. There were some things that were kind of eye-opening or reminders of, oh yeah, that is a problem, or that could be better. And so I'm hoping that people will fill out those surveys and tell us what you think.
And this community engagement survey has already been sent out, and it's going to be sent out to basically every avenue that we can. So as many people as would like to take it can. We'll even be sending out some physical copies for those that would prefer to do it just on paper and pen. And this year, compared to last year, we also put a little incentive out there. So we'll be doing a drawing for those that go ahead and fill out that survey. And there will be 3 people that will be selected for $100 for a restaurant in town somewhere. So we really do value the input. And I was surprised, or I was happily surprised when we got the feedback last year that sometimes this becomes just a kind of a rant and rave sort of thing. But there was a lot of awesome ideas in there. It was very productive, especially coming into the community. I felt like I learned a ton to know, like, okay, this beautification really is a critical thing for the community. Like, there's just some things that came out of it that helped us create that strategic plan. So we want to hear from y'all.
One other thing that when we did the survey last time, again, that was another one of those things that I've seen surveys and then people get them and then sometimes you get the results. The results were immediate and we were well informed about what those results were, and it helped us form this strategic plan. But I think the thing that hit me the most was there was a map of the city of Rawlins and there were dots where these comments came from, and they didn't come from one neighborhood. They came from all over. I was totally amazed that if you could spread them out in the different wards, and it was even Steven. I mean, we got comments from all over town, and hopefully that'll repeat itself and we can learn more about, no one's ever walked up and gave you something. Well, I wouldn't say that. A lot of times you have to ask for something and to get it because it just doesn't appear. This is your chance to ask for something, I guess is the way to put it. What's important to you might not be what's important to me or whatever. And so on that subject, I think every one of the council realizes that we're not elected to do what we want to do. Otherwise, we'd have a big trade strip right down Main Street for me. But we're here to do what the people of Rollins would have us to do.
Mhm.
There's only one way that we can do that, and that is if we know what you would have us to do. And that's where the survey, I'm telling you, folks, don't miss out on the opportunity to improve your town. Fill out that survey and let us at least consider what you have to say. And please help us do a better job. That's what I'm asking.
Just in summary, or to conclude, I just want to thank Mayor Wycombe for coming and spending this time this morning. I think that there really is a ton of value in the community hearing from you directly. And so thank you for doing this and for your ongoing service to the community. It's very appreciated.
Well, thank you, Sean. And I got to tell you, I appreciate all the hard work you guys do and the whole city staff. You know, the lights don't go out at 5 o'clock at City Hall. Unfortunately, y'all have to work a lot extra and you just do it. And it is so appreciated. And I have to tell you, I love Rollins. I moved here in 1978 for 2 years. That was our goal. Here we are. I love the town. I love the people. I don't really like the weather sometimes, to be honest with you, but you make lemonade out of lemons, and it's called wind turbines, I guess, in this case. But, you know, we live in a very special place. I mean, I watch TV, I watch the news, and thank God I live in Rollins, Wyoming.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Thanks everyone for chiming in.
Yeah, thank you. And please fill out surveys.